This podcast deals with themes, languages, and situations that may not be suitable for young audiences. If you're under the age of 18, parental guidance isn't going to help you here. Welcome to Now Open the Podcast, the sex education podcast that's more sex than education. I'm Trisha.
I am Jabim.
And I'm Bresh.
So tonight's episode is about the revolutionary roots of everyone's favorite rainbow parade. Today, we are talking about Pride as protest. This episode was developed in partnership with ILYA. ILYA celebrates diversity and inclusivity, not just in pleasure, but also in protest. If you're listening live and like what you hear, you can join the discussion by leaving a comment below, and if we have time, we'll get to them as the show goes on. You can also join in on the conversation on the Now Open PH Discord server, where you'll be free to talk about anything and everything sexuality with like-minded people. Respectfully, of course. You can find the link to the server in the episode description and in the comments. So joining us for tonight's inaugural Pride Month episode are Jelly Arsenio, a queer educator and cultural worker in Bacolod. Can we get Jelly in here? Oh no, Jelly's gone. Okay, then I guess we'll just have to welcome Carla Nicoyco, member of poetry groups White Wall Poetry and Ang Sabi Nila, former teacher and current full-time organizer for Bahaghari, the National Democratic Organization of LGBTQ plus Filipinos. Welcome, Carla.
Hello. Thank you for having me here. Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, so to start off the episode, we're talking about the roots of Pride. Like, we're all very familiar with Pride marches, whether you've gone to one locally or you've seen videos or movies about Pride March in the United States. But I want to talk about where Pride really came from. Like, Pride started more than 50 years ago. I think we celebrated the 50th anniversary of Pride a couple of years ago. So where exactly did it start? Do y'all have an idea of where Pride started?
So I didn't even know for the longest time that Pride was celebrating something, right? You grow up hearing about Pride. It's something that you hear about in the news and stuff. And I thought it was just, celebrate. Growing up, it was just, gay people are celebrating being gay. It wasn't until much later in life that I found out about the Stonewall riots, and I'd heard about it in history lessons here and there. It was really drilled into me, though, from watching RuPaul's Drag Race, because they talk about the Stonewall riots there, and I didn't know. They go into the individuals, and that's when I found out that Pride had its roots it had very violent roots.
So in the early hours of June 21, 1969, the NYPD raided a popular gay club called Stonewall Inn. So this is what we now know as the Stonewall riots. So these arrests sparked outrage and protests in the gay community, especially in like a climate of like very systemic police discrimination, harassment, and violence. So this was a way really for society to kind of crack down on quote unquote the gay agenda, was by raiding the bars that they would frequent, because these were some of the only spaces that were actually welcoming to queer people, especially because this was a mafia owned bar. So I think I read somewhere that the mafia and the police actually had some kind of agreement. You don't raid us and I guess we'll pay you off. But tonight on that night, they did raid the Stonewall Inn. And these riots were widely, or are still widely, considered a turning point and a cornerstone in the fight for equality and the demand for respect that a human being should be afforded. The very next year, pride and protest marches were held, not just where Stonewall Inn is, but all across America, in Chicago, in LA, in New York, and in San Francisco, to commemorate the 1 year anniversary of that. And today, one aspect of pride that we celebrate is the reminder of those who were brave enough to fight and how much fighting there is left to do. So, yeah, famously, Martha P. Johnson threw, oh, sorry, I actually might be getting my history wrong here, but somebody threw the first brick at Stonewall. And that's what caused the Stonewall riot. So yes, there are some very like violent roots, protest roots with pride, because at the time, this was even before the AIDS
Martha P.
crisis.
Johnson, yes.
Oh, it was Martha P. Johnson. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, at the time, it was considered a very violent action. But you think about the state violence that was being enacted on them, and it's like they're coming at you with guns and tanks. All you got are bricks and bottles of beer. So, kudos to y'all's who paved the way for the rest of us, so that we don't have to worry about our bars being raided today.
Fun fact, it was Sylvia Rivera who threw the first bottle at Stonewall. Yeah. So
Someone
Marsha P.
threw the
Johnson.
first punch.
Oh, yeah. I actually don't know who threw the first punch. Do you?
No, it's a lesbian, a butch lesbian named Stormy, letter L. I forgot their family name, but it was a lesbian.
Really, the women get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had enough.
But okay, so that's like American pride, and that is really
Right.
one of the roots of the pride that march that we celebrate today, even in the Philippines.
And
But
it's easy
are
to
you?
forget that, like, before that, there was no like open movement for like equality for the LGBTQ community. It's something that we sort of live in today, but and it's easy to take that for granted. But like something as recently as 1969, right? We don't even think of 1969 as that long ago, and yet it was that recently that the fight really began. It's kind of mind-boggling. But yeah, so sorry, Tricia, you were talking about pride here.
Yeah. So, well, a side note with in 1969, my dad was a whole ass adult already.
There you
So
Whoa.
he was living
Where was
through all
he?
this. He was in San Francisco actually at the time.
Oh.
And
Oh.
I remember it was like a huge worry for my grandparents that he had a gay roommate. It was a gay
Ooh.
black guy pa. So it was like, this is
Oh,
a great
okay.
time to have this dude as your roommate, But my dad, even back then, he was a huge hippie. So he was like, whatever, like he's clean and he
Mhm.
pays rent on time. So that's all that matters. But anyway, the origins of Philippine Pride are really not as different. It wasn't as explosive, obviously, but it still had its roots in protest. So our first Pride March, or what we could consider to be our first Pride March, happened in June 1994
Wow.
to commemorate the 25th anniversary of Stonewall. So pro-gay Philippines and the Metropolitan Community Church. This is a fact that has really continued to surprise me over the years, that one of the organizations that started the first Pride in the Philippines was a church. So they organized the first LGBT Pride March in the Philippines, but it was also the first one in the Asia Pacific. According to writer-scholar J. Neil Garcia, the number of people that went to that particular event were negligible. So it was a very small march.
Yeah.
It's not like the crowds that you kind of imagine when you think of Pride today, but that was really the first that happened here, and they didn't have one the year after, but it was one of the catalysts for more marches in the future. So just a quick rundown of some LGBTQ protest history and protest actions that have happened since then. In 1998, The Lesbian and Gay Legislative Advocacy Network Philippines, aka Lagablab, was founded to advance and protect the human rights of Filipino LGBTQs, including the push for the passage of the anti-discrimination bill, which has been stuck in Congress since 1995.
Wow.
So this is terrifying because it's horrible. They even when they started Lagablab in 1998, the bill had already been stuck in Congress for 3 years. And where are we right now with the anti-discrimination bill? It's
It's so
still
hard to understand why a bill that is labeled anti-discrimination is getting a long time to get passed. I mean, it's in the title, man. It's anti. How is anybody looking at this legislation going, nope, not for that. I'm so super pro discrimination, bro. That's my platform. Who the fuck is running under that? Anyway, yeah. On
and
September,
then
25 years for Pride to get here. And how many years has it been since this law has been enacted? We are not progressing quickly. Anyway, on
so
September 1.
95 would be 26 years today.
Damn
This year.
it. Wow, almost like a quarter of a century each leap.
I am almost the same age as the anti-discrimination bill.
Yeah.
God, I hope it gets passed in my lifetime.
I think, if I remember correctly, it's supposed to undergo its second reading at the Senate level. But
Mhm.
then you look at our senators. You have Tito Soto, you have Manny Pacquiao, Amy Marcos, and yeah, so let's see how many Bible verses they can, cite in
Right.
Congress
Right.
in the
I'm glad you brought
hearing.
up. I'm glad you brought up Manny Pacquiao because we have a little bit about Manny Pacquiao later on in the show. But moving on first on the milestones of Pride's protest. On September 1, 2003, the first accredited LGBTQ plus political party in the Philippines and in the world, ang Led Party List, was established by celebrated writer Danton Remoto.
And then let's skip a few decades or several years
Yeah.
and let's go to the more recent Metro Manila Pride marches. So 2019's Metro Manila Pride March had more than 70,000 attendees, besting the previous year's record of 25,000 and becoming historically the largest march in Southeast Asia. I remember trying to get into that Pride March and I lined up for several hours and I never got in. Like I just waited for the parade protest part to come out and I just joined them and then I went home.
You want to know what's even more annoying? Excuse me. You want to know what's even more annoying? That year, 33% of the people there were allies. They weren't even, like, hey, let me in. Like, I'm actually, like, come on, man.
Yeah, and this was actually a really big marked increase from the previous year where I think it was like somewhere in the 10 to 20% range. So I'm really happy about this number because these people who went, of those allies, most of them said they were there to support and show their like commitment to the community and fight alongside the community for the issues that we're facing. So good job, 33% of allies who went to the 70,000 strong march in 2019, even though it meant I couldn't get in. It's totally fine. Zero resentment there. I'm happy for you though. I paid somebody to do my makeup and I couldn't even get in, but I'm happy for you.
But the actual lesbian couldn't get into Pride.
No, for real though,
Right.
I'm really happy. I'm happy that there were a lot of people. It was absolutely awe-inspiring to see in person. But then that takes us, like, you imagine the incredible support that was there in 2019, and then you think about last year's Pride March. So obviously, because of the pandemic, we couldn't have as big of a Pride March or the same kind of events that we had in the previous years. But when NatDem organization Bahaghari held a pride rally and protest last year to fight against the anti-terror bill, remember that one, which is a law now, the jeepney phase out, and of course the lack of mass testing, which is still a problem today, a year later, the peaceful, socially distant protest was totally fine until police arrested 20 of the attendees. And we are really lucky to have one of those attendees here with us today. So, Carla, I want to ask about that particular experience that you had last year. So, Can you give us a little bit of a quick summary of what happened, what went on, and
Mm-hmm.
how it must have felt for you?
Okay. So I guess our collective anger just really reached its limit that we still pushed through with the march, even if um, some of our friends that we've invited couldn't make it. And it's the first protest near Malacanang since the pandemic started. So that was really daring of us. But then, we're gay, so um, we got there a-okay. We had a little march from Recto Street or Avenue to Mendiola, and we were, yeah, socially distant. We had our face masks on. We even had that flimsy face shield thing,
Mhm.
and um, there's something wrong with their speakers, so we couldn't start with our program. And then, I was just there, fussing with others for the, trying to fix the speaker, and also, checking if we're lining up okay. And I look behind me. I see there's this like one huge line. Well, yeah, it was this one line of police officers in riot gear with their shields together, no social distancing. And my friend was trying to negotiate for like, 10 minutes, and then they wouldn't allow it. So we asked if we could leave. And he was about to tell us that we're going to disperse when one police officer just went for him, and then they attacked him. And I was lucky enough to hold on to his bag that I stayed with him until we were taken at this outpost behind the Mendiola gate. And I didn't know what was happening outside. I just saw them asking people for more cars. And then next thing I know, in Messenger, uh, those who have been watching the live stream are now telling the group chat that my friends are being picked up one by one. They hijacked our car. They dragged the driver out to take. They dragged the driver out, took him to the police outpost where we were at, and we were taken outside finally. And then I saw that they were trying to fit around 10 people in that small police mobile with no social distancing. And they even tried to drag a journalist with them just because he was wearing a UP jacket. See how paranoid you can get. And yeah, they used our van to take my friends to the Manila Police District headquarters.
Which I'm
We,
guessing is illegal, right? That's
yeah,
carnapping. They can't use
yeah,
your own vehicle to take you to the police station.
yeah. Uh, anyway, we saw each other there. Good thing we had our phones. We were able to tweet and update everyone. And yeah, it's it's good to know and to reflect that we weren't alone during the whole ordeal. And yeah, so we filed counter charges against 37 of them, of the police officers there. One of it was carjacking, and one of the charges against us was BP 880. It's that law on peaceful assembly. We filed the same thing against them for violating BP 880. So, because under that law, you have the right to peacefully disperse, and
Mhm.
yeah,
And they didn't
they,
give you that opportunity.
they didn't give us that. Anyway, there were, cops aren't welcome at Pride anyway. So, and until now, just today, June 1, we hear like another case of cops just killing civilians.
Right. Look, we know what the police here are like. We know what the police here do. As you were being arrested and people you knew were being arrested, what was going through your mind?
I was very scared. It's my first time. Not that it helped, if it happens a lot, but
Right,
uh,
right.
I didn't expect for that to happen. And then I didn't expect them to be that violent because I thought we weren't supposed to, be close to each other. And I was really scared for my friends, especially the one they physically assaulted, just to, take that friend with us. He's gender queer, so, or they, sorry, they're gender queer. So, uh, yeah, they threatened him, saying that if they don't go with them, he's going to shoot his brains out. And yeah,
Oh
that
my God.
traumatized my friend. And
I'm
when
sure.
we got there, we were segregated into male and female, and they even questioned why Ray, a member of Bahaghari, trans woman, staying with us girls. So good thing we still had some of our lawyer friends there to threaten them with, you're not supposed to do that. We have the Safe
Legal
Spaces
action.
Act. Yeah. And and when they were doing that, I was just ready to, like, I know I'm feeble and weak, but I'm gonna kick you if you take Ray away from us. Like, we don't know what will happen, if we get separated. And yeah, there was psychological torture, um, physical even, because with the temperature in the room, and we were staying in that corner of an office, and you know, couldn't be socially distant from each other.
Mhm.
Then we saw their monitors, all their ads were porn ads.
That actually checks out.
Yeah.
That
It does not surprise me that our police don't use VPN to watch pornography
or incognito tab. Come
or
on.
incognito tabs. Like I'm sure that they all fall for those clickbaity hot singles in your area things, and those are just
Hmm.
viruses on their computers now. It explain a lot. But
Uh,
yeah,
trig- yeah.
I,
One more thing with that, because
mhm.
I just remembered it. Trigger warning. Harassment. Um, on the first two nights, we weren't. Well, I just didn't feel comfortable that when we're sleeping, no one is up. Who knows what they might do you know at night. And well, they never turned off the lights anyway. But there's always something fishy with police. And I think it was on our fourth night when two of my friends saw this police officer seated in a desk close to us, and he was jerking off.
Ew.
And damn.
That is so
um,
gross.
That's fucked
so
up. Yeah.
it's really fucked up. Can we just
It's
defund them already?
it's really wild to think how you were protesting during Pride, which is the anniversary of the Stonewall riots, and it's like what 51 years, 52 years later, and we're still literally fighting for the exact same reasons, and we're fighting especially because in this case it's like police, and that's the exact
Hmm.
reason why Pride was even a thing in the first place, was because of police harassment of the queer
Right.
community,
Yeah.
and the queer community standing up to police and finally saying, you know what, this is enough. So, what are some of these issues that we're still fighting for? That why Pride as protest is still relevant today?
Uh, there's a lot. Well, first we have police brutality, like on all fronts. We see people um, go into the streets asking for food, or jeepney drivers begging for donations, and they also arrest them, like the Piston Six from last year. We have relief workers, and now the community pantry organizers being profiled, and even they make ways to arrest them for violating rules and stuff. That's one, because the state forces like the police, the military. It seems like they're not here to serve and protect us. And why is Pride still a protest? We have um, recent trans killings. Um, just on the week of the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, we have our trans sibling, Abeng Mayor, killed just there in Batasan Hills. And it's not just a simple murder, it's a rape slay, it's a hate crime. I don't think I should describe, the details anymore. But every year we have trans killings happening. You find them floating on a river, or you find them disfigured, and the nature of these murders really tell you that it's fueled by bigotry, prejudice, and that's why even up to now we really have to go out there and yeah um celebrate the community, uniting, at least even just in one day of the year. But we also see a community resisting and fighting back. We're pretty much still fighting for what the patrons in Stonewall Inn were fighting for back then. So it's the right to exist, to express ourselves the way that we want, our rights to have a job, have a well-paying job that gives you a living wage, right to go to school, get an education, right to housing, and simply just the right to live and live with dignity. And that's something so many of our marginalized queer siblings don't even get to experience today. So yeah.
Absolutely. Just the other week or last week for our segment on the news, we talked about how even when they're not killing our queer siblings, they are heavily being discriminated against. So last
They're
week we
trying to
talked
pin
about,
crimes on them.
right, and even in like more less life threatening ways, but I guess still life threatening because it involves your employment. We talked about Jollibee last week, where they have a long history, not just one, not just two, but like three separate incidents over the last 4 or 5 years where they've been proven to be discriminating against, especially trans people, or the most recent one that came out was discriminating against actors who have acted in BL series. They didn't want them in their commercials for whatever reason, because it goes against Jollibee's values of being delicious and cheap. I don't know what it was going on in Jollibee's brain there, but we can really see
Yeah.
how basically in every facet of society, from police to corporations, the queers are just, we're not getting a break. We're not getting a break. But is there any legislation that can maybe give us a little bit of hope for a slightly less violent and safer future? What kind of legislation do we have in the pipeline right now?
Well, we have two. First is the Soji Equality Bill. That's the one that we need to have updates on because session is closing this week, and it's going to reopen again July. So in between those weeks, we'll never know what will happen to us. And then we have the comprehensive anti-discrimination bill under the Committee of Human Rights, and that legislation has like other forms of discrimination. So with your ethnicity, disability, and yeah, we have those two bills, and well, we'll see because once we have the hearings again and they exclude LGBT resource persons from saying their piece and save that space for um, the conservative religious people here, then um, that means we'll have to wait for another session, for another year before
What
anything
kind
actually
of
gets passed.
what kind of arguments are stalling the process? Because again, this has been the first anti-discrimination bill that I guess that was filed in Congress was filed in 1995. So what kind of arguments are stalling this from getting signed into law?
Oh my god.
I'm just like super for discrimination, dude. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
my
I
constituents
love
just
Jesus,
love
and Jesus
discrimination, you know? Yeah.
hated the gays.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna infringe on our rights to practice our religion. Oh, you're making the gays, you're giving them special rights. What about us straights?
I don't
We'll be
understand
discriminated
how
against.
I don't
So go
understand
on.
how affording people equal rights impedes on anybody's right to practice their religion. I don't understand what their argument is for that.
Um, they just go back to the same traditional, hurtful, homophobic arguments. And no matter how many times you tell them, you know, we all have soji. Um, we're humans too. They just don't see that as enough of a reason to actually consider us, as a marginalized sector.
Right.
So, yeah, welcome to the Philippines.
I think in a country where, especially in third world countries, where the people in power see people see the people who are under them as commodities, it is that much
Mhm.
easier to forget or to bypass the fact that human beings are human beings, especially when it comes to issues of issues of human rights. Uh, there you go. Yeah.
I think we're only tolerated when we're profitable.
Right.
Like,
Oh, they love our money.
And
yeah.
we will get to that in just a bit. Uh, but before we move on to the rest of the discussion, let's listen to a clip from EM. Am I saying that right? EM.
EYM.
YM, an artist who hopes to inspire people as much as their favorite artist inspired them. This is Chimera.
And I don't want to fall in too deep. If I'm the only one, 'cause that's what I fear. So tell me why I'm waiting. Tell me why I'm here. Tell me
So
All
if
right.
you like what you hear and you want to support your beloved sexual delinquents, you can send us money like the whores that we are. For less than the price of 1 cup of bougie coffee per month, you can keep your favorite sex podcast up and running for many episodes to come. It comes with a lot of goodies like extra content, special shout outs, and exclusive access to a VIP customer channel on Discord. You can even suggest an episode. It helps us a lot and we really appreciate it.
All right. So today we are talking about pride and the roots
Oh,
of
before
pride.
that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh damn. Oh yeah. We'd also like to thank Ilya for partnering with us for this episode for quality sex toys that will get you where you want to go. Go to www.shopilya.com. Ilya, come and play. And now back to the discussion. Right. This episode we're talking about the roots of pride as protest, why pride as protest is still relevant today, and how pride is being celebrated here specifically in the Philippines. So I personally have never attended a pride celebration. So how is
Boo.
pride celebrated today? Yeah.
The most known celebration is the one held by Metro Manila Pride. But we have Pride celebrations, Pride marches happening all over the country. So we have Baguio, Iloilo, Mindanao. So it happens um, in places other than the National Capital Region.
Mhm.
But I've only attended the ones held by Metro Manila Pride. Yeah,
The
and
ones the ones that you
yeah,
have attended, Carla, are they? Would you say they are celebrations or protests? Would you say that these celebrations still carry the spirit of protest in them?
Um, okay, so well, it is both, but just not in the idea that we normally have about protests. So, um, because with the pride marches that happened after the Stonewall riots, the organizers of the Gay Liberation Front thought that maybe no one's um, making noise anymore because they don't know if there are actually other queer people. So that's why they started marching. So they become more visible and say that, hey, we're here, we're queer. And yeah. And in the same way with how I've seen it in 2017, 2018, and 2019, or 2016 to 2019 for 4 years. It is both a celebration of how far the community has come, and like how we also celebrate representation, we celebrate our existence, and this is something that I got from the spaces conversation last night with Metro Manila Pride, that concept of radical joy, of seeing your joy as something subversive also. And well, through the years, since the Here Together series, Here Together, Rise Together, Resist Together, and then Sulong Magpatinag, and then now we have Sulong Backlash, sama-samang pag-aklas ang ating lunas. So we also see how the queer community has in a way, been more conscious about how ce- um, how celebrating Pride is also demanding for our rights to exist, and that also means demanding for equality. And when we say equality, we mean better healthcare system for everyone. We mean accessible education, jobs, and it's just also bringing with us the struggles of other sectors that are also suffering or are oppressed today. And I saw that with the 2019 Pride March that we had at Steam, where Trisha didn't even get to go in and see the program, but it was really good because in that
Oh,
resist together um,
thanks for not rubbing it
Pride.
in.
I mean, I got to go outside, but then I couldn't go inside anymore. So, um, well, I was lucky enough to host the afternoon segment, and we have solidarity messages, um, even from the Lumad Pakwit students. And with the times that I've visited the Lumad Pakwit school here in the metro, I've gotten to know queer Lumad. So
Ooh.
yeah, seeing them there in the 2019 Pride March um, was really progressive. It was really opening the space for all other marginalized sectors. We also had the farmers from Lupang Ramos in the 2019 Pride March. And the farmers in Lupang Ramos are, you know, um, facing displacement because the government's National Grid Corporation wants to take over their land that they've been tilling. So, but anyway, it's good to know that pride also means bringing with you all the other marginalized sectors. And
Some
until
mga
now,
nakiki-protest.
nakiki-protest.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
It's really
Uh,
interesting to kind of compare how we do it here in the Philippines with how it's being done in the States. Because obviously, the States is
Ooh.
where even like the word pride comes from, why it was pride and not any other word. Because when you look at the States and how they celebrate pride, it's very, very different. It's kind of
Hmm.
akin, I think, to like a street party.
Yes.
They
Oh,
have
they're like,
corporate
well, it started in a gay club with alcohol before the police came, so they carry on that tradition every year, I suppose. I don't see. It's very interesting though to know, like, based off of what Carla said. I wouldn't imagine in the U.S. like a Pride celebration having, other people who are anti-government who are also marginalized marching along with Pride, and I think that's something that's unique to our Pride celebration here. That Pride is somewhat more uniquely protest here because it's specifically for protest. People join to protest.
I think part of it is because they have achieved some major strides in the U.S., like especially with the passing of same-sex marriage, and now that's legal. Like a lot of, I think, gay people in the United States think, okay, you know what, we're done here.
Yeah.
We have our rights are protected. Some states, I guess, probably have anti-discrimination laws, and we have gay marriage. What else is there to fight for? It's kind of like forgetting all the other issues that still plague the LGBTQ community today, and kind of in favor of assimilation. It's like, well, we got the heteronormative straight people dream of getting married and participating in capitalism without getting fired. But what about all the other rights that we have, especially now with a recent wave of like anti-trans legislation in the States? Can you believe they are debating whether or not to check children's genitals? Just
in a post-Trump America, yes, I can.
Okay, fair.
Yes. Yeah.
It's now conceivable, whereas maybe like 5 years ago, you'd be like, there's no way this would happen in the 21st century. And yet.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask about something that I don't actually know much about, but something that I've heard quite a lot about. What is Kink at Pride? And how is Kink at Pride celebrated differently in the U.S. and here in the Philippines? And I hear there's something being done differently with Kink at Pride this year. Can we talk about that?
Trisha, want to go first?
Okay, so I guess just to set some context for the people who are listening, every year for the last 5 years, there's been some kind of discourse about disallowing kink at Pride for the typical reasons of I don't want my children to see that. With, of course, the understanding that Pride is a family, or supposed to be a family-friendly event.
I mean, don't fucking bring your children, dude. It's not fucking...
Well, the thing is, I do understand.
Simple.
I do understand because there are a lot of queer kids growing up, and there are really not a lot of spaces for queer children to congregate, like queer bookstores. That I don't know if that's a thing here. Queer coffee shops. We have a couple of them now, but there's not like so many of them. But
I'm not trying to exclude queer kids, but given the sexual nature, the kinky nature of Pride, the inherently kinky nature of Pride, maybe that's not the place. Maybe we should create new spaces for underage queer children to hang out. Maybe it's not Pride.
So that's kind of the discourse that's been happening, especially in the U.S., where, admittedly, kink at Pride is a lot kinkier in U.S. Pride, especially because of our indecency laws. You definitely can't get half as naked as you can get in the United States without getting arrested, probably.
Please, I see naked people at UP Circle all the time. Naked people there.
You know what? That is true. Yeah. Why don't they arrest them? We broadcast that on national television. Yeah. And yet, if somebody wears a leather harness to Pride, it's suddenly like pearl clutching moment.
We live in a country that pretends it's super puritanical. We live in more or less what is the modern equivalent of a Victorian society, in that we outwardly pretend that we are super puritanical, but deep down inside, like we have a whole genre of movies that we call bomba movies. Those were things, bold movies, or bold. We have a thing called bold stars here. We don't have porn stars, we have bold stars, dude. And yeah, we want to pretend like we're, I don't want to see nipples. Fuck that. That is such
hypocrisy.
Isn't that Isko Moreno? Isn't he a former bold star? Didn't he do sexy movies back then?
Wait, what?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Carla's nodding. Yeah. Believe it or not, that mug used to be sexy back in the day, I guess. Whenever used to pass for sexy in the 80s. But yeah, he's a politician now. Why the double standard?
That is so wild. I did not know that about Isko Moreno. I'm gonna
Mhm.
do some Googling tonight. But but anyway, I want to talk about Carla,
Kink
what
and
your
pride.
opinion on this is. Like, have you seen any kink or kink adjacent looking things at Pride?
Kink
Do you think it's an
adjacent.
issue? We can't have actual fisting at Pride in this country, okay? That's just not gonna happen.
Why? This is my
Not in
ventriloquism
Marikina
puppet.
Sports Center. It's not gonna happen. Maybe in the bathrooms at Marikina Sports Center, but it's not
Oh,
gonna be part of the program.
nope.
You know.
Ma- Um, well, since the first time I went to Pride, that when it was still in Luneta, I haven't seen any leather kink delegates. And you know what? I feel like this needs to be a separate episode because I think you can talk about this
Oh, absolutely.
Kink
the
and pride, yeah.
whole time. Yeah, we rooted out in history and all. But in the last Pride marches I've attended, I've volunteered, so I was too busy doing my job, trying to put that rainbow armband on people, keep the peace, so we don't get a stampede. Yeah, I have it, but um, I feel like in the U.S. Um, how do I address this? Kink sector, kink people, kinky people,
Community.
the kink
Mhm.
community, the leather community, the EDSM community. I think they've made contributions in terms of having a being more sex positive and being more um, inclusive. And when we have the kink community, um, I feel like it's beyond just beyond just it's beyond the sex. It's community. So it's like um, we've always been hypersexualized. So but I think for the kink community, it's more than just our experiences, our what we do in bed, and having the having the kink community in Pride is recognition of that contribution. I'd like to quote Gottmik. Uh, since queer desire seems so subversive, having them is, in a way, contributing to crashing the system with a CIS. And um, our desire, queer desire, has long been judged. Like if you see two straight people making out, no one's making a fuss about that. But then you see um, two girls being intimate with each other, it seems as if the world's burning. So it's that. Um, and anyway, pride marches aren't done to appease the straights. Like we're not there to appease the straights. Period.
I love that you said that because we have a comment here from a customer. Jaden says, in Taiwan, there's also a group of queer people that would say things like, if we are too vulgar, dressed too slutty or revealing at Pride, we as the queer community will be subject to criticism or attack from straight people. So this is something I see very commonly lobbed against No Kink at Pride. It's like, hey, let's just be quiet and get along and maybe they'll give us some rights, you know?
Oh, okay.
Can we have a crumb of rights now that I've covered my cleavage?
Um,
Uh,
yeah, I agree with that.
Another common feature now of Pride, not just in the U.S. but also here, is the double-edged sword. Anytime any cultural movement gets popular, here come in the corporate sponsors. Chugga, 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 chugga. We've seen it happen with body positivity. We've seen it happen with the Me Too movement. Anytime there's a social movement, and big corporations are like, nom, 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 money, 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 money. And it's no different every time Pride rolls around. I think, oh God, what was it recently? Bench, those fuckers, right? Bench. They released a line of scents, right? which I'm sure all smell like shit, as all bench colognes do. Like I can always tell when somebody's wearing bench colognes. You smell somebody in the fucking LRT wearing bench shit. Anyway, they released some bench cologne with different rainbow colors, I believe. Rainbow colors in the same week. I think unveiled their new sponsor in legendary homophobe Manny Pacquiao. So it's
Iconic
like, yeah,
homophobe.
iconic homophobe Manny Pacquiao. It's like on homophobic shirts and shit. They have him on flags and stuff. They love him. The homophobes love him. But
He's
yeah,
like the face of homophobia
yeah.
in the Philippines. Just like what
So you can
a
tell.
never-ending well of amazing homophobic sound bites from
So
this
it is like
guy.
one of the most disingenuous things, right? One of the reasons that companies get behind social movements in the first place is to have a veneer of authenticity to the public, right? We are with you, we are behind you, we are behind this social movement. But what does it say when a company that is supposedly behind you and supposedly with you there and is an ally and helping you fight for your rights uh, gives millions, I'm guessing millions upon millions of pesos to someone who once called the LGBTQ plus community, I'm translating from Tagalog here, but like worse than animals, lower than animals, right? What's your take on that?
That's a thing every pride. You have corporations thirsty to just enter the sea, and they give us marketing or advertising campaigns, show our struggles in a cologne line or like a really scenty commercial. But then you know, they're just it's still capitalism. Uh, we have a word for it: pink capitalism, rainbow capitalism,
Pink
and
capitalism.
yeah,
It's the first I've heard of
and
that. I like that.
they can always release like a rainbow merch or stuff, but we go back, like what are they really doing to prove that they are genuine allies, so to speak? So if they have a campaign about the LGBT community, like this certain brand of toothpaste, do these campaigns really benefit anyone in the grassroots? Or um, at the end of that, with that facade of being progressive and inclusive, all they're really after are profits. And it's, they're profiting off our exploitation, our struggles. And yeah, so we're thirsty for representation, but capitalists, they really know how to like turn that around and turn our struggles into something that still benefits them rather than forward the movement.
Definitely. Like the pink dollar is super, super strong. The whole idea that a lot of us may not have children because we are denied access to either having them or adopting them. So in the Philippines, a lot of us won't have kids. So, you're a single income, single person household. You got money to spend.
Mhm.
So a lot of corporations want to jump on that, and they're doing it now because it's popular. I mean, where were you 20 years
Right.
ago?
If you think about it, they're basically just doing it as like as face value to show support, right? We support you when they're not really doing anything. What they're doing is taking your money because they pretend to support something and they release a line of products. It's the capitalist equivalent. It's the marketing equivalent of do this work for us for exposure, right? Give us your money for exposure, and we'll give like slight visibility of your movement, but you give us your money. It's this non move.
I
Well,
always think about the Chromatica Oreos because the gays ate those up absolutely.
Yeah, I think Jaden says here, right here. I think Jaden sums up the sentiment of a lot of people when when Jaden says, "I hate how I hate queer baiting, but I'm so easy to bait." Like we know what we hate, but like,
We're so starved. That's why we're like waiting for crumbs from the table, and when they give it to us, it's like, oh, it's a rainbow colored drink. I'm buying it.
That's a rainbow pedestrian lane. I'm walking on that lane.
I'll take a picture for Instagram, and the artist pala isn't queer.
I think it's still also important to analyze or see their intentions. We have it's important to weed out genuine allies versus allies for cash for profit. Um, we have, I think we have those existing. I just don't know who they are. But if you're a genuine ally, then hope you thrive. And this pandemic is going to stretch for 2 more years.
God, this
Christina
pandemic has
Lente,
killed so many
Festina
great people.
says, queer themed shows, I'm down. Well, guess what, Festina? I have good news for you. For the entire month of June, all of our shows are going to be queer themed. So, like, tune in for the entire month of June. You're going to enjoy our programming this month.
So I think we covered a lot of bases about what Pride used to be and what Pride is today, and what Pride should be. Free of police and grubby corporate hands trying to take the spotlight away from the real.
Disingenuous corporate hands.
Oh yes, disingenuous corporate hands trying to get your pink dollar. But I'm curious, what is the number one thing that was your takeaway from tonight, or what you want our customers listening in to take away? How about you, Carla, as our special guest?
Okay, so support queer themed shows, support queer owned businesses, especially the small and micro businesses, support your local queer person who's selling stuff on IG, um, and um, most of all, in this period, almost a year after June 26, 2020, we're in a really worse spot than we were when we started with the pandemic, and there's still no mass testing. And we have police shooting people left and right. Like every day, there's a massacre happening in some part of the country. We have, I just learned about this today that they approved the charter change thing. That's going to allow foreign ownership, like give it 100% foreign ownership of our businesses, enterprises. So that's like opening up our economy to, just simply opening up our economy, paralyzing the ones that we have locally. So good luck to our economy. And when
It's been struggling for a hot minute.
we have importations left and right, rice, pork, fish, and then, well, there's no financial aid, especially for the poorest households here, and even us middle class gays who are probably unemployed right now, like me, part of the 4 million unemployed. So there's really a lot happening in our country right now, and this all goes back to who headed this really shitty pandemic response, who has been giving late night talks and just talked about relations with, let's not um, talk about the West Philippine Sea. Let's talk about drugs instead. So it all points back to the national government and this president, who for 5 years have been killing more people, putting more people in jail, and turning this country red with the amount of people he has killed, either from war on drugs, extrajudicial killings, hunger, and COVID. And and this June, more than ever, we need to stand hand in hand, really, like queer, straight, non-binary, and really put an end to this tyrannical regime. So if I want our audience to take away something tonight, I hope that one day you can join us and say, Aus Duterte, we'll
Woo!
see you in the streets.
I timed that so perfectly. All right, Javim, what is your takeaway as our token straight man?
I think my takeaway is just how ridiculous it is that we're supposedly living in an enlightened age, and there are literally subsections of people that are not even that small, who are still fighting for literally just human rights and equality, and just to be treated like human beings, who have to live their experience on this earth being discriminated against for what? For nothing, right? And we do like to celebrate Pride in the month of June, and that's the theme of all our shows this month. But I think my main takeaway is the fight for equality is not just during June. It's not just during Pride Month. It is a fight that goes on all the time because it is a struggle that goes on all the time.
How about you, Presh?
Well, for me, everyone's gonna just have their own agenda, and sometimes that's gonna suck. I'm not about to let my identity be a part of your agenda. It's not yours to take. This is my identity, and it's so frustrating. It's because it is political, and we'll never take that away from. No, we can never separate that from politics. But I guess on a lighter note, I remember we mentioned in a past episode that the opposite of fear is love. And I'm just really reminded about people who don't understand the LGBT community because they fear it because they don't understand, rather. You know, I suppose they don't empathize or they just don't understand that we're people. And to quell that, to extinguish that fear, it's just love. Like we always say, love wins, right? And I understand that it's hard to love people who bring you down and hard to love people who don't fight for you. But really, it's the only thing that we can do, or at least in my opinion, rather, or it's the ultimate thing that we can do is just to love and eventually like it's the ultimate thing that anybody can do, I think. We always say love wins, and it will. And we're young. The human race is very young, and I believe that love will win. So yeah.
Trisha?
Well, I hope it would win in my lifetime. That would be nice to be able to enjoy.
Probably not, honestly.
I mean, great for future generations.
There's
but
an
I would like a
asterisk
little bit of
there.
that pie.
There
I
are
guess
small wins. There are small
that
wins.
is true. Yeah, I guess my takeaway from this is that capitalism sucks, and
Yeah.
we've spent our entire lives being subjugated by so many systems: the system of the state, the system of money, and we're fighting this battle on so many fronts. But what Presh said is right. It's like we have each other, we have the love of each other, and that love is radical love, because the world is literally trying to squish us like a bug just because we happen to love people or be different or love ourselves in a different way that than society deems quote unquote natural or normal. And it's so ridiculous. But again, just continue to love yourself, love your, well, maybe not love your country, but love your country in a way that you are willing to fight for it and make it a better place for the other people that you love and the people that you will love in the future if you plan on having children. So please do not, we can't separate pride from protest. I would love to have a pride that's just a street party where it's a giant orgy with alcohol and sweets and treats and sexy people. That would be so much fun if that's all that pride
Leather and
is.
licorice. Yeah.
licorice. Like that would be so fun, and I would love for a world where that is what pride is, because that just sounds like a grand old time. But until every queer person on this world, and even if we just go every queer person in this country is liberated, we have to remember that the fight isn't over. We can't just party. Yes, we can party. We should still have joy, and
Responsibly and social distance, we can party.
yeah, socially distanced party. And we should still enjoy life and have fun. But don't forget that there are people out there who aren't having fun, and we can do something by fighting for their right to party.
As the Beastie Boys
Let's
once
free
said.
them so that they can party with us.
Yeah, before we say goodbye, let's open up the floor to our questions from our customers. For today's opening up, we have an anonymous letter. Anonymous writes, I'm curious. We like that. Why is it that girls got used to saying girl crush when we have this crush towards girls, but if it's boys, we just label them as crush? Does it also happen for guys the other way around? It's an excellent question.
Man
Anonymous.
crush. So, Carla, feel free to weigh in on this, but I want to get Jobim's take as the guy, the only guy in this group.
I have no fucking clue why girls say girl crush. Dudes do say man crush. Yes, we say man crush all the time. And on one end, I think it's kind of harmless, but on the other end, it's also a kind of insidious way to say, like, I'm so straight, dude. Like, I'm so straight. This crush on this guy is like totally hetero, man. Like, I have a man crush. It's totally not a gay thing. It on one hand, it's kind of easy to see it as something harmless. On the other hand, it's very subtly coded, being like, I'm straight. Yeah, so yeah, it is a thing that guys say.
How about you, Presh? Have you ever had a girl crush?
I feel like all my crushes are girls, so it's just a crush. But I don't know. I guess I agree with Jabim with the whole, I find this person attractive, but I'm straight, okay? Like, as if it's necessary. You can just appreciate the person for what they are.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. Yeah, that's for me. So I
I
get
find
the
you
crush.
sexually attractive, but in a non-sexual way.
Yeah. Isn't that what a crush is?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't had a crush in so long.
R.I.P. How about you, Carla? Do you have girl crushes or whatever that means?
Coming from a religious, exclusive girls' school, I do call my girl crushes. Because I'm, well, growing up, it's banned. It's not allowed. But yeah, I haven't observed that, that's actually true in my case. But now this time I'm going to call all my crushes, whatever their sochi, just, crush.
Yeah, as
Stop gendering crush.
yeah, crush is gender neutral already.
Yeah, don't gender crush.
I wonder if it's just because, like, I find it interesting that it happens to straight girls. I can understand why it happens to straight men, because there's such fear of being associated with gay that man crush is the only acceptable way to express that another man is attractive.
I think man crush is like no homos, like more dressed up second distant cousin.
Oh,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like when dudes say, it's just like, yeah, my man crush. But you get what I mean, right? He's my man crush. Like,
That's why I find it so
guess.
strange that girls still do it, because it is socially acceptable for women to express adoration for other women. We do it all the time, like drunk girls in bathrooms. Oh, my favorite thing,
Oh my
You
god,
just go
girl,
up
you're
to
so
them and you're-
pretty. I love your dress.
right? And that could be like a girl crush type situation, but I don't know. I think a lot of women still also have that fear of being labeled as bisexual. They want to separate the whole sexual aspect of it. It's just it's a non-sexual attraction. Maybe you like their personality. Maybe you want to be them. Oh, that's the perennial sapphic woman's dilemma. Do I want to be them, or do I want to be with them? So I don't know. Every crush is a girl crush, because if I find a girl attractive, it's going to be both. I want to bang them, but I also want to be kind of like them. It's both. A girl crush encompasses all those
I want
things.
to be you, but also want to fuck you really badly.
Yun na nga, like you only put it if it's like a not hetero crush. I wouldn't say like if I were a cis woman, I wouldn't say like, oh, he's my boy crush. Like what the hell?
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. I just maybe it's because I've never heard it said. Boy crush. It just sounds weird to my ears. Boy crush. I just imagine like a little 5-year-old
Man
boy
crush.
getting hit by a.
So I guess the answer to our anonymous letter writer is that I don't know, maybe some people use it because they want to distance themselves first from some kind of label.
I guess,
Maybe
yeah.
they're curious, maybe they're actually straight, but either way they're not fully committing to the idea yet
Of having a crush.
of having a crush on a person of the same gender. So they don't want to commit to all the baggage that comes with saying I have a crush on this person. And I don't know, like I can't judge them. There's still a lot of stigma against women having or being bi or having girl crushes. You know, it's like why not just adore them or you're only doing this for attention. So there are so many reasons why. So I don't know.
All right.
I
Well,
can't judge.
no answer for you, anonymous, this week. Thank you for sending us
We don't
your
know.
question. We are
Thank you
hoping
for
that our shared
sparking.
experiences illuminated the subject you were asking about.
I hope we indirectly answered it somehow.
Yes. Somehow.
If we didn't, send a second question that's clearer, and then we'll answer that one.
Carla, before we end today's episode, is there anything that you'd like to promote? Your socials, anything?
Oh, okay. Join us in demanding that Duterte certify the SOGI equality bill as urgent to prevent any more trans killings and discrimination and violence against the LGBT community by following us on Twitter at Bahaghari_PH. If you look for us on Facebook, we're gonna appear there. I think it's Bahaghari LGBT. And then on Instagram, we are Bahaghari_Phils, like PHILS.
Okay.
And I think that's it. Yeah. Email us at bahaghari.phils, PHILS at gmail.com if you have questions or, just reach out, contact us. Join Bahaghari.
All right, Javim, what do you want to promote?
World peace, consideration and kindness towards one another, not counterflowing on busy streets. But also, I'm on Twitter, right? I'm also on Twitter, Jobimism, that's JOBIMISM. I am also on the gram, as the kids say. That's Jobim Javier, JOBIMJAVIER. I forgot how to spell my last name there. Anyway, yeah.
How about you, Fresh?
Just love. That's it. I promote love.
That's a good one. I promote condom use and my
Nice.
Twitter at Trisha O'Bannon. Condom use regardless of who you are, your gender identity, and who you're fucking. Just please use some condoms somewhere. Just throw it in the mouth.
Regardless of what you're using it for sex, for water balloons, please just use condoms. They're so much fun.
For the love of God.
For the love of God, play with condoms, people.
So also make sure to stay updated with Now Open by following us on Facebook and Twitter at Now Open PH. Our past episodes are available on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Don't forget to join our Discord server to hang out with the hosts, fans, and friends of Now Open, and subscribe to our coffee page, www.ko-fi.com/NowOpenPH to get bonus content and other special perks. So I'm excited to announce next week's episode. To continue our theme of Pride Month for June, next week's episode is Reclaiming Slurs. So we are going to talk about when can you reclaim slurs? Should you? Why are we so obsessed with slurs in the first place?
Is it okay to call somebody a slut?
Oh yeah, like a gendered slurs and when it can be empowering and when we're going too far. We're going to discuss all that and more on next week's episode. Same time, same place. See y'alls when we next open.